First appearing in Amazing Fantasy issue number 15 in August 1962, Spider-Man was the creation of writer Stan Lee and comic book artist Steve Ditko. The character was conceived as a teenage orphan named Peter Parker, who was being raised by his Aunt May and Uncle Ben, until he was bitten by a radioactive spider, which imbued him with super strength and agility, and a tingling spider sense whenever danger was near. In the early 1960s, most teenage comic book characters were relegated to the role of sidekick, but the Spider-Man series broke new ground by having the hero deal with the normal struggles of adolescence, in addition to those of a costume crime fighter. The idea of a teenage superhero resonated with audiences, and the character of Spider-Man has gone on to become one of the most popular superheroes of the last half century. Here is our top 10 list of best vintage Spider-Man toys. Hello Spider-Man fans, my name is Tony, and kicking us off in the number 10 slot is the Energised Spider-Man action figure from Remco. I'm reluctant to call this entry an action figure on account of the fact the figure has no articulation. In its place is a battery-powered feature that enabled Spider-Man to climb his web or power his spider light when it was plugged into his utility belt. This may not be the most exciting Spider-Man figure ever made, but it has that classic Spider-Man look that collectors go crazy for. And taking the number 9 slot on this list is the Spider-Man web-spinning action game from the Ideal Toy Company. The Spider-Man web-spinning action game was an ingenious idea, and it featured several small figures, including Spider-Man, the Green Goblin, Rhino and the Lizard. But what makes this entry so worthy is the truly fantastic packaging artwork. Number 8 on the list of best vintage Spider-Man toys is the 1970s Spider-Man webmaker from Chemtoy. Originally designed as a cheap toy to be sold in nickel and dime stores, the Spider-Man webmaker from Chemtoy included a small tube of web fluid, a belt clip, and miniature figurines of Spider-Man, Mary Jane and the Green Goblin. But the coolest part of the set was that when you turned the packaging over, you could cut out the various parts to make a pop-out city display. Coming in at number 7 on the list is the Marvel World Adventure playset from 1975. The Marvel World Adventure playset isn't strictly just a Spider-Man toy, because the set actually included several cardboard figures of different Marvel characters, but the playset earns its place on this list for being the first toy to ever feature the Daily Bugle, the newspaper building where Peter Parker works. Coming in at number 6 is Vanity Fair's Spider-Man camera. Peter Parker not only worked for the Daily Bugle, but his job was that of a photographer, so it was a very cool idea to make a toy version of a Spider-Man camera, since Peter Parker is rarely seen without his camera hanging around his neck. Taking the number 5 slot on this list is the Captain Action Spider-Man uniform and equipment set from the Ideal Toy Company. The whole range of Captain Action equipment sets made by Ideal are some of the earliest superhero toys ever mass-produced, but they are also some of the very best. The quality of these sets outshines many later toys, which is why Captain Action sets will regularly make appearances on these top 10 lists. The whole range of Captain Action outfits were truly iconic, but one of the best was their vintage Spider-Man uniform and equipment set. As we get closer to the top slot, the number 4 entry is responsible for millions of fondly remembered childhood memories, the Mego 8-inch Spider-Man action figure. Mego was one of the greatest toy manufacturers of the 1970s, and their truly astounding range of superhero toys is utterly mind-boggling in scope. Which is why, along with Captain Action, Mego toys will always make appearances on these top 10 lists. The Mego 8-inch Spider-Man action figure is a simply iconic 1970s toy, made even greater by being able to battle his arch-enemies like the Green Goblin. Clocking in at number 3 is one of my personal favourites, the Mego 8-inch alter ego action figure of Peter Parker. The Mego alter ego action figures are some of the rarest superhero toys ever made, and today they are highly sought after by vintage enthusiasts. The full set included Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Clark Kent and of course Peter Parker. Peter takes the number 3 slot on this list for not only being one of the first action figures of Spider-Man's alter ego, but for also being one of the very best. Taking the number 2 slot on this list is another Mego toy from the 1970s, the 12-inch web-spinning Spider-Man action figure.
Web-spinning Spider-Man!
This is Web-spinning Spider-Man!
Mego produced a standard 12-inch Spider-Man action figure, which is a worthy toy in its own right, but they really raised the stakes when they produced the web-spinning version of this iconic action figure. Before we reveal our top pick, here's the worst vintage Spider-Man toy of all time. The Mego Comic Action Heroes Mangler. This toy simply beggars belief. I cannot understand the thought process behind it. The Mangler was a large tracked vehicle made to look like a mechanical crocodile, and when Spider-Man punched his enemies into its mouth, they would be, mangled? The Mangler never appeared in Spider-Man comics, and I can see why. The idea is just ludicrous. And so coming in at number 1 is the 11-inch Spider-Man action figure from Japanese toy company Popey. This list has already seen some totally legendary vintage Spider-Man action figures, but in 1978, Japanese toy company Popey destroyed the toy competition with their 11-inch Spider-Man action figure. This figure is a true masterpiece of classic action figure design, with great articulation, a web climbing action feature, some fantastic accessories, and a beautifully designed costume. The complete package is a toy collector's dream, and one that has thoroughly earned its place as the number 1 toy on this list. So that's our top 10 vintage Spider-Man toys of all time. Did you agree with our list? Leave us a comment in the section below, and please, if you like this video, hit the like button, and don't forget to click subscribe to stay up to date for more vintage toy goodness.